Before his untimely death, hacktivist Aaron Swartz was working on a very timely project. It was called SecureDrop, and the idea behind it was a WikiLeaks-style submission system in which whistleblowers could leak documents and information to journalists without the fear of disclosing their identity. When Swartz died, the project wasn't quite ready for implementation. There were a number of kinks in the software, including outright problems with the program's installation. And while that could have been the bitter end of that initiative, Freedom of Information advocates have decided not to let Swartz's dream die so easily. Just this week, the Freedom of the Press Foundation announced that it has taken the project under its wing and renamed it SecureDrop. In the coming months, the foundation says it will provide on-site installation and technical support to news organizations that want to run the system. But in addition to installation support, the foundation plans to equip media organizations with the tools needed to maintain a secure server in the long term. The magazine The New Yorker was the first organization to use the SecureDrop code through a similar initiative called the Strongbox Project. But will more news organizations follow suit? To talk about all of that and more, I'm joined by RT Web producer Andrew Blake.
Hey.
Andrew, always good to see you. So first of all, explain how this whole SecureDrop server works.
If there was an easy way to explain how SecureDrop worked, everyone would already be implementing a system like this. So that might be a bit too much to bite off, but essentially it's a series of networked computers all together that through different protocols and tactics that are employed. Okay, I'll make it really easy. It allows people to anonymously submit documents to a selected news organization, and once those documents are received by the selected news organization, they are ideally scrubbed of identifying data and provided to journalists so that they can work off of these documents and perhaps work towards blowing the whistle on a certain issue, whether it's domestic, international, politics, or what have you, without risking the repercussions of, well, what we're seeing lately with the surveillance coming from, malicious actors, be it government entities or otherwise. So it's just a new system that ideally would be simplistic enough so that people, the wannabe whistleblower out there who's sitting on a document that they would like others to discover but aren't really sure how to go about doing that securely, this would enable that.
And is it 100% impenetrable, or?
Well, nothing really is. This whole system itself relies on a whole bunch of different stuff. The user sitting on the documents has to connect to a certain website using Tor, the anonymizer program. From there, they go to a certain website, they memorize certain codes, and identities aren't even revealed through this if it's all being implemented successfully. No one really knows who they're talking to, and but just like anything, like we just recently found out that the government's been spending years and presumably millions of dollars at trying to find ways to compromise security of people who use programs like Tor. So nothing is really 100% secure. It all depends on the user. But what this could at least do is provide a new outlet for people to distribute materials to journalistic organizations much easier than what's currently available. I mean, WikiLeaks doesn't even accept submissions right now using the standard protocol that they put in place years ago. And especially in this day and age, it's really hard to approach a journalist and say, oh, hey, I have something very interesting for you, but no one's supposed to know. This is supposed to bypass those barriers and make it easier for journalists who know what they're doing and who are working with secure information and working securely to communicate also securely with their sources.
Sure. So who exactly is going to benefit from using this tool? Do you know, and also do you know, what organizations have sort of bought into this so far?
Well, the Freedom of the Press Foundation already said that at least half a dozen organizations have signed up and said that they want in. And the Freedom of the Press Foundation is actually being incredibly generous, and they're trying to raise money right now so they can go to different organizations who might not have the financial backing to install a system like this, to operate the code, learn how to use it, have the machines in their office. They're willing to actually help out getting this system in place someplace, which is fantastic. But like we said earlier, the New Yorker was already using it, and I think we're going to see a handful of new organizations, like I said, already half a dozen, step up, and which can really change the whole game of journalism if anyone, not just the WikiLeaks or New York Times or Washington Post or The Guardian, if a source can say, I have information and I want a specific outlet to have it, and I think there's a secure way that I can present it to them, this would enable it. And as far as who could benefit from it, I mean, essentially the world. The possibilities are really endless. If you're implementing a system that exists so that important information could be distributed by people, I mean, who doesn't benefit by being able to distribute information? What would happen if WikiLeaks wasn't around and no one saw the collateral murder video or the diplomatic cables or the war logs or the Guantanamo Bay detainee assessment briefs and so on and so on and so on? So I mean, it really just depends on who, if we're talking about who can benefit, it's really the caliber of the material that's involved here.
Absolutely. And lastly, I have to ask how this all fits into the legacy of the late Aaron Swartz, of course.
Well, he was obviously someone who was very, very committed to releasing information to the public domain. He was unsuccessfully prosecuted for his role in compromising PACER, the legal system, as well as a handful of other entities, and we know that the government went after him pretty hard. And he worked on this for a while with Kevin Poulsen, a reporter and a hacker who most recently has been working with Wired, and really got this thing squared up. And there was just recently a major security audit. I just read all 30 pages of it last night, and it looks like they're really working on getting all the kinks out of here and making something that Aaron Swartz would very much be proud of, I believe.
Absolutely. Well, it's a very important tool for journalists to know about. Appreciate you coming on. Andrew
Sure.
Blake, RT Web producer.
Thanks.